You know, anything that swims in Lake Erie or the Upper Niagara River can be in here. This river has a lot of northerns. When was the last time you were throwing crankbaits for crappie? Look it. Isn't that a nice walleye?
Let's go fishing. Even when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha Outboards, reliability starts here. Sail, the outdoors superstore. Insect Defend Patch, DEET-free protection from biting insects.
Dave, this is like magic. I just came from the foot pedal and you can work it with the remote.
I just hit spot lock, which is going to hold us in the same spot.
That's perfect.
So we don't have to worry about getting close to any structure.
Good, good.
And while we get this fish,
Oh, he's
I'm going to bring him
lightly.
over.
You know what? He might get
I don't
off.
have him by much.
You know what? He's a small fish, but it just goes to show you, when you're dealing with situations where you have a large area that's the same depth, when you get somewhere where there's a little bit of structure, you know, you're going to get a variety of fish. We got the little largemouth, we got this pike. I'm hoping we're going to get some nice walleye. Now, you were asking me about pike earlier. This river has a lot of northerns. The average pike is about 3 to 7 pounds, but you can get a lot. So normally I don't hit pike fishing the structure in the middle, you know, but he's a healthy fish.
Yeah, he's got
this
good
guy's
color.
about 2 pounds. I mean, I did a nice, in a perfect release. I did a nice fishing show on Little Lake, you know, near Barrie, getting pike from that size up to about 7, 8 pounds. So I don't mind small pike. But you know, you look at this watercolor. I didn't tell you about the chute before we got together. If you were just to use your eyes and fish this body of water, you can't tell where anything is.
Yeah.
You can look at the shoreline, you get an idea, you know, maybe if it's a steep dropping shoreline, but you got to have underwater eyes, and that's where the electronics are so important. So, you know, it's nice that we've got both sonar units, and you can see that we're marking that structure really well.
Yeah, we've been able to see some fish on both the bow and the console sonar. Now, of course, we just got to try to catch more of them, and that seems to be the challenge this morning.
Well, that's good. That's a start.
So you can see the conditions have changed, Italo.
I can see that. It's kind of rough.
It's kind of picked up with the wind, and it's making it a little difficult, I even see, to keep us in the same spot from the bow of the boat with the trolling motor. So what I did, I hope you don't mind, but I pushed a button here on this remote called Spot Lock, which is like an electric anchor.
I don't mind at all.
And it
That's
created
awesome.
a GPS waypoint so that the trolling motor now knows to stay in this spot so that you and I can actually position ourselves, cast all around here until we feel we've satisfied ourselves casting here until we move on, and we don't have to worry about holding the boat in the spot.
So how does it know to keep us in one spot when you got a current and you got wind coming from different directions?
So basically, when I hit that spot lock anchor button, it made a GPS waypoint, and if we drift outside of a 10-foot circle on that waypoint, it turns the trolling motor back on to bring us within that 10-foot circle.
Well, now I can concentrate. I was having a hard time concentrating.
I saw that because we just seemed to be bouncing around.
Yeah.
I know you were doing a good job, but I was getting to cast a lot more than you were.
Xmark, you find fish catch of the day.
Yes, Jesse, it's Tony from Canadian Sport Fishing calling. I need you to, I'm looking at your picture, you're holding up a smallmouth bass, you put it up on our You Find Fish app. Think about the day, think about the fish, think about how much fun it was, and put it all into a story like you're telling your buddy over coffee at Tim's, okay? Let her rip.
Okay, well, we went to Tunnel Lake. It was windy, we were catching pickerel, pike all day long, and then out of nowhere, that thing hit, and I thought it was a record pike on my line. It fought like crazy. It was the first smallmouth I caught, and then I found the app, and I put it up there.
And what made you think to put it on an app?
Well, I just found the app. It looked cool. I'd seen a lot of pictures, and thought I'd show it off. It was the first one I caught.
Funny. When was the last time you were throwing crankbaits for crappie? Look at it. You know, is that a white crappie or a black crappie? Because I think there's both here in the Welland River.
I'd say that's white.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Look at the stripes on them.
Nice shine on them, too.
Yeah. You know, when you're fishing structure like this, you don't know what you're going to catch. Like I say, I've even caught walleye and channel catfish, really good size. So this is very interesting. Actually, I told Dave that I brought a couple of slip bobber rods because cranking like this when you get on structure in the past, I've caught crappie. Normally you don't use crankbaits designed for larger game fish. So you can see the neat colors on this guy, very light colored. You can see how washed out he is. He's almost all silver with a little bit of just gray stripes going down, probably taking on the colors of its surroundings because the water's almost like a milky color here. Big mouth though, you can see why he grabbed that crankbait. Okay, I'm gonna slip him back in. Okay, and you get him down, nice sheen on him. Kind of reminds me of a saltwater fish. And there he goes, disappears. You know, we've got a really nice piece of structure just off the side of the boat. It comes up to about 5 feet and about 12 feet of water all around it. And you know what, Dave? It's getting a little challenging. The electric's got tons of power, but I just find I'm going left and right. And I'd love to be just anchored on the spot and just be able to cast all around it.
Well, it looks like, you know what we can do here? I've got another remote around my neck for this Talon electric anchor on the back of the boat. So just hang on, I'm gonna push the down button, and it's gonna deploy a spike through the system on a multi-stage into the ground to actually hold us in our spot.
You know how many people ask me what that is, and I kid them around?
They think it's another motor on the back, I think, right?
It's an excellent system.
So right now we've got a spike down into the ground. Now, of course, the wind is going to blow us around.
Yeah.
We're going to stay facing this way, but we won't move off this spot because the spike is in the ground. We're pinned. We can cast away.
I like how the lights show you, how far down it's deployed. I think that's a smart idea.
Every light equals 1 foot. So we've got the spike down right now. It shows us 7 foot down.
Well, for fishing structure less than 8 feet, and casting around, it's perfect. If we were in deeper water, we'd have to use the spot lock on the electric, which works great too. No, this is awesome.
Yeah, I get a lot of people asking me in the parking lot what that is on the back of the boat, and some guys run two, one on each side of the outboard, so in rough conditions they can actually spike it and it holds still with the bow of their boat into their fishing spot.
Now what about using that and the spot lock?
I find if you use that and the spot lock, it works very well in rougher wind and wave conditions, because then the spot lock will turn the boat. Let's say we wanted to face it into the wind. We can turn the boat with a spot lock on that way, and it will hold us facing into the wind.
Excellent.
So it really depends on how you want your boat to be a fishing platform.
It's really smart. Dave, we got a walleye.
Hey, what happened up there?
Different species. He just hit the crankbait coming across that little bit of a structure. I'm going to flip this guy in.
All right.
Hopefully he won't fall off. Come here. Look at even the walleye, light color. It's gonna
look at that.
Almost reminds me of a sauger. Have you ever fished for sauger?
Yeah. Caught them incidentally, but not fished for them intentionally.
Yeah. So he's not a big fish, but he whacked that crankbait. I think maybe the fish know that there's a cold front coming, so a lot of the walleyes, the bigger fish, just aren't hitting, I guess.
Maybe they're going to turn on now.
If we were up north, that fish would have been a keeper fish. If they had a slot limit, under 16 inches.
So rather than using the gas outboard to move, we should actually cover some water and just use the electric. So what I just did, Italo, was I looked at the sonar, looked at the area we're fishing, and we're going to move from one structure to another, go to the middle of the river, adjust the motor. I use this Minn Kota motor that actually has an autopilot system, which will follow a straight line. Turn the autopilot on, I can adjust the speed, and you can see the speed here on my little remote. We're doing 1.4, 1.5 mile an hour, or we can see it at the Humminbird sonar GPS. So we're pulling our crankbaits at a proper speed to have the right action.
Perfect.
We can also see that we're staying in the middle, 7 to 8 foot of depth, and hopefully we'll catch a walleye as we move instead of using the gas outboard.
I agree. It's nice and stealthy, it's quiet, and looking at the Humminbird, we're in it's anywhere from 6 to 9 feet. So if we were to use the big motor, we'd probably spook fish if they're, 3 or 4 feet below the surface. So this is a great way just to sneak up on them. Water temperature is 17.4. It actually got warmer. When we started further upriver, it was 16. So it's up 1.5 degrees. So that's kind of interesting.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Naden Boats, Canada's finest aluminum boats.
Did you know that the larger a fish gets, the larger his food requirement is? So if you're planning on catching bigger fish, and I'm talking about predatory fish that have teeth especially, whether it's in freshwater or saltwater, you should be using larger lures. What I'm holding up here and moving for you so you can appreciate how much flash they provide are 2 X-Wraps. They're both 13 centimeters long, so they're the number 13. The one in my left hand is called a jointed one, and you can see that it's got a broken body, as some people call it. So both of these X-Wraps are designed for larger fish. The one in my right hand, which is the original one piece, is actually equipped with saltwater-proof hooks. These are cadmium-plated hooks. You can use them in salt water. The one in my left hand can be used in salt water, but it's really primarily designed to be fished in freshwater with the freshwater hooks. Both of these can be trolled or cast and retrieved. The key, though, if you're going after big fish, especially if they have teeth, is to use the proper leader, whether it's fluorocarbon or wire, and the proper line, because the last thing you want to do is hook a big fish and then lose it. When you're fishing turbid waters like we are here today, the only way you can see what's on the bottom is by looking at your sonar, and even at just planing speed going down the river, you can see that I'm marking the structure. For the most part, everything is about 7-8 feet deep. We just went over a bit of a structure underneath the bridge abutment. And in just a moment, we're going to come up to a large weed flat that goes right across the river. So I've used my sonar that's on the console to roughly get into the right position. This is where the electronics is so important. Now I'm going to lower the Terova electric. The nice thing about the Terova, beside it being able to have the actual autopilot, remote control, so you can use it without having your foot on it. You can actually use a remote control in your hands. It also has a very long shaft, which is ideal if you get into windy conditions or river conditions. So what I'm doing now, I'm looking at my sonar. You can see that the sonar is reading about 5 feet. So what I got to do is just find the drop off now. So if you watch it, you're going to see it's going to get a little bit deeper. And in just 2 seconds, I've got my marker right here that I'm going to throw out to mark the shallow part of this drop off. You see it dropping off there? See it right here? Very important. This is the real-time screen, by the way. That's what's happening every second. We've got fish marking. We're right on the drop-off. So now that we're right on the drop-off, on the edge, I'm going to take my marker. And you know what? These things are fairly inexpensive. They're about $4 each. They're ideal because once the weight hits the bottom, it'll just sit there. That's why they've got these straight lines. Now watch this, okay? I'm going to just drop it over the side. You don't have to throw it far. It's unraveling right now. And in a second, it's going to stop when it hits 5 feet. There we go. That one's locked. Now I'm going to do the same thing further out because this saddle goes right across the river. And I tell people, when you're fishing rivers, it doesn't matter whether the water's murky like it is here or clear water. You want to find structure because the structure in rivers where you have moving water, you get a combination of a current break and also a depth change very quickly. It doesn't have to be a big one. Here, for example, a depth change of 5 feet, so from 5 feet to 10 feet, can make all the difference in the world in actually finding and locating fish. Look at this. You know, anything that swims in Lake Erie or the Upper Niagara River can be in here. A lot of people think that you got to use bait to get channel catfish or even bullhead, but you know what? A lot of times they get aggressive and you can get them on artificials, and I've caught them on crankbaits, spinner baits. This isn't a monster. I'm guessing he's about 5 or 6 pounds. You can see those long barbels sticking out of his face. Gonna get him in the net so we can get a good look at him. And you know what? He socked this crankbait. I thought for sure it was a 4 or 5 pound walleye. I'm gonna just try to very carefully get him out of this net. We got shadows and stuff. See if I can get my hand underneath here. There's not much to hold when it comes to these channel cats. Oh, you see he's got tons of energy. What he's done is he's wrapped the line in the net. So yeah, you got to watch these, the dorsal fin and the pectorals, because they've got big spines. We don't want to get spine, and those spines have barbs on them. So there's one, there's two. Now, did he want that crankbait? That's the Rapala. It's called a Dives 2-7 flat. You can see that the body of this lure has got a very flat configuration. So I got to be very careful here. I'm going to take one hook out. Yeah, he wanted this thing. He hammered it. I mean, when you're fishing, you got to have pliers handy. And you know what? These channel cats, their mouths are like a rubber tire. So they're great for not getting off, even if you've got one hook into them. But I'll tell you what, to get the hooks out, sometimes you got to work a little bit. So I'm going to try not to wreck my treble. What I'm trying to do is just get one out at a time. I've got one hook left. And come on. Boy, I got him good. You know, when you're using a braided line, like I am, that 832 suffix, there's no stretch. So I've got a titanium leader on, but when you set the hook, that hook responds instantly to the 832. Okay, I got the lure out. Hopefully this guy won't fly out of my hands. Now, channel cats are very unique fish because they've got taste sensory organs all along their body. So it's not just these barbels or whiskers that people call them. So they can actually brush themselves against things and taste them before they actually put them in their mouth. But they will also lash out and hit a crankbait and other artificials. Okay, I'm gonna get them back in the net. They're very hardy, but you know what? We're gonna release them. Okay, let's get him in there. He's got tons of energy. You know, catfish sometimes can live for hours outside of the water. Look at that barbel. He's got those spines in the net. Come on, trying to get him out. Beautiful, there he goes. You know, as anglers, we can even practice conservation when we're going to and from our fishing spot. You can see today I've got my truck because I'm trailering my boat and I need it for that. There are other days when I've got a lot of gear like ice fishing huts and power augers that I'll use the truck. But I learned about 10 years ago that it makes a lot more sense for the environment if when I go just shore fishing and I've got a few rods or just one buddy, that I drive a smaller compact car. And in fact, a diesel car that's clean diesel, because it gets good mileage. I still get to and from my fishing spot, and you know what? It's better for the environment. Oh, what a hit. You know, sometimes because the water's so murky here, you can crank and these walleye will hit right at the boat. And this guy, actually saw him come up, big head, big mouth, to grab that crankbait. So he must have been about 5 feet away from the boat. Now, if you'll notice in the water, unlike fishing up north where you've got crystal clear water, look at that nice walleye. But it's very hard to see unless it's on the surface. Picture that fish will go about 6-7 pounds. I just grab my net. Now, you got to admit, that is a nice walleye. He's got lots of fight left in him. Oh, look at this. Isn't that amazing? You know, the interesting thing is, it's the middle of the day. It's 1:45. I'm going to try to very carefully grab this guy. He's got lots of energy. Now, look at how light he is in color. Isn't that a gorgeous walleye? You see, if you stick to a pattern where you're fishing structure, even in 4 or 5 feet of water that comes up from 10 feet, and you use the right lures, like the Rapala Dives 2.7 flat series, in the middle of the day you can get big walleyes just like this. Okay, let me get that lure out of the net, and I'm going to put the fish back in the net, and we're going to release it. You know, these Lucky Strike nets are so nice because even though the hooks go into the net, we keep saying this, because they're plastic coated, you don't have to worry. So there's the crankbait. Even in this murky water, that nice silver foil color, which is a natural baitfish color, works really well. Isn't that a nice walleye? Okay, I'm going to get him in the net and in the water. Let me get him back in. Now, you know, one thing I've learned is that walleye really vary in color, depending where they come from. Here, because the water is such a murky color, you'll see here, if I lower him down just a bit, once he turns, you know, right side up, he almost disappears. Like if I go down maybe 1 foot, the net disappears. So this guy's not going to stick around for long. So they really take on the color of their surroundings. Now, see what I was saying about this net? I just caught him there because I want him to be really revived. This live release net is ideal. Look at how nice that walleye looks. You know, this watercolor reminds me a little bit of the Detroit River. Okay, so watch, disappear. You know, if you like to practice catch and release, I mean, big walleyes like that I don't think should be kept. The ideal eating size of walleye is anywhere from about 14 inches to 17, 18 inches. You might think those are small, but they actually taste nice because they have a real variety of forage base that they feed on, like invertebrates, crustaceans, minnows, and so on. Once walleyes get really large like that one, they feed predominantly on smaller fish, so their meat is actually whiter and softer, and they don't taste as good. Plus, that fish is really important for reproduction because it lays lots of eggs. That was probably a female because it was a good sized fish. Boy, did that fish hit right at the boat and fight so hard.
Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. Yamaha Outboards, reliability starts here. Sail, the outdoors superstore. Insect Defend Patch, deep-free protection from biting insects.
I've always believed you have to have a balanced lifestyle. For example, you can't work all the time. You have to take some time off. So I'm a good example of that. You can't be fishing all the time. So I had some great fun on the river, but also it's important to take some time off. So I'm actually on the Welland River, but I'm at Riverview Golf Club. With me is Michael Sung, who's one of the owners of the course. Michael, what makes Riverview so unique?
We have a beautiful 18-hole course. As you see, we have a right beside the Welland River. This is a beautiful 18-hole course.
It's gorgeous.
Yes.
Now, it's a public course, anybody can play?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. I've seen lots of players out, and I'm amazed at what good condition the course is in. The greens are in great shape, the fairways are in great shape, and it's nice that it's so close to the water.
Yes.
So you notice I have my boat on the back of the truck today, because I was fishing earlier, I was working, and I'm here to have some fun.